Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson, and on today's show, we're going to talk about some post-June 1st free agent targets. Cleveland just got some money after moving on from John Johnson and Jadeveon Clowney officially, so they might look to spend some of that money. So, in case you're wondering, the Browns are going to have roughly $17 million to work with. The cap's always a myth, so that figure is always a bit fluid, but you can pencil them in for $17 million, and that's a good amount of change to spend for some cheaper free agents now that we're out of the heat of March and the first and second wave of free agency, and things are going to be dying down a little bit. Now, before we look at any names, make sure to go ahead and subscribe, because if the Browns do sign one of these players, well, I'm going to fly back from the vacation I'm currently on right now for a wedding and get you guys a video ASAP, so make sure you hit that sub button down below. Now, let's get things started with talking about a former Cleveland Browns player, Kareem Hunt, and let's just lump in the other running back too, Ezekiel Elliott. And you know what? Why not have three as a party? Leonard Fournette, because the Browns, if I really had to think of their biggest need right now, it would probably be backup running back, even though I'm not that concerned with Jerome Ford. But I know a good subset of the fan base is, so let's discuss the idea of Hunt, Zeke, or Fournette coming over to Cleveland. Last season, neither player was all that good. I mean, that's just the cold, hard truth. All three of these guys average under 4 yards a carry. That's kind of the kiss of death in the NFL. If you're not getting 4 yards a pop, you're making it really hard for the coach to argue and decide to run the ball instead of passing it 3 straight times. Now, to zero in on one in particular, Kareem Hunt, of course, has the connection, played for the Browns the last couple of seasons, but he is coming off career low seasons in rushing yards per carry and receiving yards per receptions. Now, he turns 28 years old in August. Last season, after the last 9 weeks of the season, Kareem Hunt, believe it or not, averaged 18.1 rushing yards per game. Think about that for a moment. The last second half of the season, 18.1 yards per game on the ground. How do you look at that number and think this is someone we definitely need to bring back? That's why I'm sort of pumping the brakes on re-signing Kareem Hunt. Yes, I know some of you are going to throw at me that Kevin Stefanski was not properly utilizing him, but at some point, to me, it doesn't really matter how you utilize a player. I saw Kareem Hunt fail to get around the edge one too many times, and it just looked like, as cliche as it sounds, he lost a step. So for that reason, I'm kind of here for Jerome Ford's season. He was great last year in the preseason. He showed a lot of potential in special teams. We hardly saw him in the actual offense during the regular season, but I think at some point, even the Browns, who are all in on 2023, have to draw a line in the sand and go, we can't make a roster of complete one-year veteran players. We have to have some homegrown talent for the future. And if Nick Chubb is not going to be this team's back for the next 2 or 3 seasons guaranteed, maybe you hold on to Jerome Ford as the team's RB2 and you see what you have in him as a potential replacement for Chubb down the line. So let me know. Should the Browns re-sign Kareem Hunt? Type 27 for yes or type N for no. I'm passing on Kareem Hunt. I used to be the czar of keeping Kareem Hunt in Cleveland and not trading him. But once the trade deadline rolled around, it looked like he kind of was approaching that wash territory. Maybe he'll hit the fountain of youth with a different team, but no other NFL team has barked up his tree, and I'm going to pass for the time being and roll with Jerome Ford. Moving on to some more free agent targets here. This time we focus on the defensive side. Linebacker Myles Jack. So if RB2 is not this team's biggest need, it's definitely linebacker, because I'm not sure who's going to start week 1, right? Your 3 starters all ended last season on injured reserve. JOK with a foot injury, Anthony Walker with a torn quad, and Taki with a torn ACL. Those are all, except for JOK, very significant injuries. So if there are some fears and some reservations about those 3 guys being ready to go to start the season, because Jack Conklin, for what it's worth, he came off a torn patella tendon in November, if you remember, 2021, and he started the training camp off on the PUP list. So he did not even play week 1 against Carolina. If there are concerns about, those guys, and not like through any fault of their own, taking more than just the minimum amount of time to recover, maybe you do add an extra linebacker for some depth. Now, Myles Jack, the former second-round pick by the Jags in 2016, started 13 games for the Steelers last season. He was pretty bland. He was kind of as vanilla as they come. He didn't really provide many sparks or many game-changing plays, if you will. PFF ranked him as the 65th best linebacker out of 81 players. And like I said, he didn't have a big, oh wow moment for the Steel City. Here are his stats from last year. He had 100 tackles. Cool. That's kind of your job as the middle linebacker, right? Teams are going to funnel running backs towards you, and you're supposed to clean it up. 3 tackles for loss, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 3 pass breakups. A lot of donuts there. Like, that's sort of why Myles Jack is still a free agent at this point. Kind of giving me sort of Joe Schobert vibes a little bit. Myles Jack coming off the bench, I don't really have an issue with. I think Myles Jack can still have a role in the NFL. Now, usually at this point, if teams are sort of out on you as a defensive starter and you don't offer a lot on special teams, you'll have a tough time convincing a GM to sign you just to be a backup linebacker who might not get a lot of runway if you don't have any special teams ability. So I'm not quite sure how good Myles Jack is on special teams. He hasn't had that big of a role in that department through his NFL career. But if he could be a good special teamer and he could be a good linebacker and potentially start a couple of games, because I can't confidently rely on those 3 starting linebackers all playing 17 games. You don't twist my arm. I can get behind Myles Jack coming to the land. So let me know. What position do you think the Browns should sign next? Is it running back? Is it linebacker? Let me know what you want to see Andrew Berry make a priority right now. Could be wide receiver. Moving on to our 5th and final free agent target post-June 1, Shelby Harris. The Raider, then longtime Bronco, and most recently a Seattle Seahawk, is 31 years old, and he's coming off a very successful 2022 campaign in which he ranked 17th out of 127 qualifying defensive tackles. Now, Harris has loads of experience. He has started over 58 games the past 4 seasons. He is getting up in the age column. He's going to turn 32 in August, and usually older defensive tackles, they don't want to go through the conditioning and the workouts of a OTA or training camp, and often you see these guys kind of get signed towards the end of camp when their agent tells the GM, all right, he's ready to come. Oh, that sounded weird. He's ready to come to Cleveland, and do not come. And now it's all in my head. And the Browns decide, yeah, we've had enough of trying to wait on Jordan Elliott and Tommy Togiai to develop. Let's give Shelby Harris a look. Now, Cleveland's defensive line is stacked and loaded across the board. The only question mark of the 22 starters for this team is who will be standing or lining up next to Dalvin Tomlinson. Is it going to be the rookie Ika? Is it going to be Jordan Elliott for year 2? Because I kind of hope not, but he might be the best option. Is Perion Winfrey going to mature and be ready to play in the NFL as a full-time starter? I don't know, Jim. We're going to have to wait and see. And maybe Shelby Harris can fill in for a pinch if the Browns never really get an answer to that question. Last couple of seasons, very good pass rushing upside. 6 sacks 2 seasons ago for Denver, but he's a very good run stopper as well. I still think he has a lot of good football left in him. So with that being said, those are my 5 free agent targets. If you've got one that your heart is calling for, let me know in the comments section. If it's someone else, feel free to chime in. But it is pick a card time before we get on out of here. Producer Sam with me once again. Sam, which card do you want to go with?
We're going to stick 9 of hearts, I think, until it
I like the strategy. I respect it.
It's 9 of spades, by the way.
9 of spades.
But I think I'm going to stick with that just until it hits.
Yeah, I like the strategy.
It's got it.
It's one more shuffle.
It's my stubborn gambler.
And I'm going to go with a 2 of diamonds.
2 of diamonds, okay.
We're not close at all. Jack of hearts. I guess we got the red right.
I could tell it was...
Oh, I got the red right. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll see everyone later.